Today, I'm going to be reviewing Sledgehammer. Now, you notice a lot of the movies that I am reviewing haven't been released on DVD because they're bad or nobody has done it yet. But also why I'm reviewing them is because these are the movies no one really talks about. A movie like this may have, 13 votes on IMDb. I don't know if this specifically does, but I'm just saying a lot of them have a low amount of votes, low amount of user comments. And I think they're more interesting in that respect. I don't mean the movie itself is interesting, but I think it's interesting that these are like forgotten movies that no one cares about. This Sledgehammer is no exception. 555 is a forgotten movie. Here we have Sledgehammer, released on World Video. World Video also released a lot of Nick Milliard's films like Criminally Insane, Satan's Black Wedding, The Terrorists, also World Video. His movies, at least those were shot in film. I guess once he moved over to video, he found another distributor. Maybe they didn't want to release his movies anymore because they were kind of bad. But we got, like I said, Sledgehammer, directed by David A. Pryor, who still makes movies, bad movies, ones that I don't even think they were released here in the United States. One of them is called Zombie Wars. So about Sledgehammer. Sledgehammer is a movie about, has basic slasher formula, but it gets a little weird at the end. But the story is about a mother who runs away to a cabin or a house up on a mountain with some guy she's having an affair with, but she goes up with her son, and she locks her son in the room. Her and the guy have an affair or start having sex, and the boy comes out of the room, and I don't know where he gets the sledgehammer from, but he gets a sledgehammer and he kills them. Then we fast forward 10 years later, and then a bunch of kids go up to the house and they have a party, they get wasted. And that's pretty much what happens in the first 40 minutes. That's all that happens. A bunch of kids partying, getting wasted, they have a food fight, a lot of slow motion sequences, and that's an interesting thing about this movie. A lot of slow motion. And because it's video, a lot of the slow motion is very choppy. In film, you just record at a faster speed. Video, at least in those days, it was more difficult to make slow motion because you'd have to do it in post-production and most of the time, and it would just be choppy. There's a scene, the slow motion here is ridiculous. The scene that has slow motion is just a simple scene like them throwing their bags out of a car, unpacking the car because they're going to the house. You see the bags slowly hit a pile of other bags. I'm like, why is this in slow motion? What is so dramatic about them taking their bags out of their car? I don't understand. You get a scene of a couple, one of the couples in the movie, and they're just walking down a trail by the house, and the scene must last like 3 or 4 minutes in slow motion, and it's just them walking down a trail, and you're wondering, why is this taking so long? The impression I get from this movie is that they went to maybe World Video, and World Video said, this movie's too short, you better figure out how you can make it longer, and that's what they did. They used a lot of slow motion, and they just used longer scenes, like a couple walking down a trail. The main lead of this movie is the brother of the director. His name is Ted Pryor. He's like a bodybuilding dude in real life or whatever, and a year or two after this movie came out, he was a centerfold in Playgirl magazine, so that was kind of that was an interesting little tidbit about this. But he plays in most of his brother's movies, even the ones he makes today, even the ones Dave Pryor makes today, Ted Pryor is in them. He's, if you look at his IMDb profile, he's like a not school teacher, but he's an acting teacher. Teaches acting somewhere. Like I said, the story about itself, it just lags, and there's a lot of slow motion sequences. The print of this movie that I have is very light. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but the picture is really light. There's a lot of bleeding in the image. That might be because I have a very used copy of the movie. I don't know. But the first kill, you got the kill in the beginning where the boy kills his mother and father. But then, the next kill after that is 40 minutes later. So most of the movie, about half the movie, is just them partying, getting drunk, and Ted showing off how good he is. Well, his name in the movie is called Chuck. Chuck playing guitar, because he's a classical guitarist in real life. So, of course, they got to throw in a scene of him just playing guitar. The real turning point in the movie is, like I said, 40 minutes in, when they start to do a seance. A seance to try to get in contact with the killer of the couple 10 years previously. they created like kind of a prank, and one guy's like playing like scary voices upstairs, but he ends up being killed by the real killer. So one by one they start getting knocked off. But in like about an hour into the movie, things get a little dreamy, not dreamy, but kind of like I don't know, like ghostly, because then the killer turns into a little boy, and then he grows up again. One of the main characters going after the killer, he walks through a wall. I'm like, he's not a ghost, why is he walking through a wall? That's really weird. The murders aren't really that gory. I mean, they're bloody. An interesting thing is that actually in the opening credits there's a credit for the special effects, and he says special effects by Blood and Guts. So I don't know if that's a real special effects crew, they just put it in there as a joke. Interesting enough, most of the people in this movie really didn't get anywhere. Ted Pryor just acts in his brother's movies and does commercials and stuff. But one person in the crew became extremely successful, and that was the production designer. His name was, I had to write it down, it's weird, Alex Hajdu. Hajdu? I don't know. That's Hajdu. Hajdu, I guess you pronounce it. He just recently did the production design for the movie W about George Bush. That was kind of interesting, and ironically, he did the production design for the television series Sledgehammer. No connection to this Sledgehammer, of course, but I just thought that was interesting that one of his first gigs was this shot-on-video mess, and that he would eventually do a television series with the same name, Sledgehammer. And, another thing that was pretty common in the movie, that happened a lot, is where you'd see a scene and it would just stop on a still frame and then crossfade out. This happens all the time. They'll be partying, whatever, freeze frame, then fade out. Happens all the time. It's kind of annoying. The whole 15 minutes ending of the movie is in slow motion. It just gets kind of crazy. I mean, slow motion. I know I keep saying slow motion, but it's everywhere in this movie, and it just drives me nuts because it's just like draws out each scene. I don't know what to say, except that the story really lags. Nothing happens for the first 40 minutes, except we get that little tidbit in the beginning about the couple getting killed by their son. And first 40 minutes, nothing but partying. Then a few killings happen, and then it kind of takes the tone of like the Evil Dead, where they're kind of stuck in the house, they got nowhere to go, but they must find this killer. And then things get weird, and the killer starts turning into a little boy, and then he grows up again, and they stop the killer, and then they just leave the house, and that's the movie. That's Sledgehammer. You could actually contact David A. Pryor. He has his own website. I always thought it'd be cool to email him questions about this movie. Not that it's a really good movie, because it's really not. It's just the editing is mediocre. It's the best it could be for shot-on-video film. There's not a lot of artistic shots in the movie. It's pretty hard to get. I got this for 15, maybe 20 bucks, probably like 5 years ago. Another VHS I tracked down pretty early. Not to be confused with the television show, because that always pops up when you're looking for Sledgehammer. So, I guess this is it. So, this has been Paul with SlasherIndex.com. I'll have more reviews for you guys, so